Lanza. My rank in the Air Corps was sergeant. Japan planned to attack our Philippine Islands, which at that time was a possession. Hawaiian Islands, which was our biggest Navy base in the Pacific, which was also one of our territories, one of our possessions as well. They thought by attacking us that we would turn our efforts to the Pacific and let England fight for itself. But they didn't know the resolve of the American people. They didn't really know what our manufacturing capacity was, what the potential was of our people. So what did they do? On December 7th, they launched an attack of bombing our base in the Pacific, Hawaii, with the idea of crippling our Pacific fleet so we could not fight them in the Pacific. Sunday morning, I was on my way to church in civilian clothes with the idea after I left church, I would go to town for the day and enjoy myself, since we were confined to the base for almost a month. On my way to church about 7:45 in the morning, the Japanese attacked, bombing and strafing our base, destroying our airplanes, destroying our hangars, repair facilities, as well as Hickam Field. They attacked Schofield Barracks, which was the infantry base, as well as other facilities around the island. Pearl Harbor was devastated. We had 9 big capitalist ships sunk, as well as many smaller other ships were sunk. 2,000 men or more killed. On our base, we lost about 40 or 50 men, plus maybe 100 badly wounded who later died. Not all of them, of course, but many of them died, or had to be discharged for injuries. And we were at war. This is what happened at Pearl Harbor.
John McElroy, our Chief Petty Officer. So when December the 7th happened, they had sounded general quarters. I came topside. My station would be number 2 fire room. So I had to get from the back end of the ship to about the middle of it. And just as we get by Hickam Field, a bomb drops on the ramp where they're trying to put these PBYs into the water, the patrol planes, get them up in the air. They're trying to get them in the water. And this bomb drops and blew the whole ramp up, all the planes and the people and all that kind of stuff. So I went down to number 2 fire room, and I was supposed to watch the water. There's the 2 levels in the fire room. One is the fire lines. The other one's up above, where you have to keep the water in the boiler. So when I got back down there was a guy who had been there, and it was his watch from 4 o'clock. So he said, "What's going on?" And I told him, I said, "The Japs are bombing hell out of me." So he said, "In the meantime, we have to keep the water in the boiler." So we're just about to settle down to doing that, and the ship starts shaking back and forth like crazy. I'm holding on to the stanchion so it won't get thrown off. So is he. And the lights went out. Everything's black. Down below they can see a little bit by the fire in the boiler. Up above where we were, we couldn't see anything. But we're supposed to be keeping the water in the boiler. We can't see it. So I'm jumping up and down on the gratings, getting attention to people down below them. I hand up a flashlight so I can see where the water is. I finally get their attention. They hand it up. I find out where the water is. It's still there. It's okay. You don't want it to go up too high, or it'll go into the main steam stop. They'll wind up in the main engine and tear them apart. If it goes too low, you're going to burn out the tubes in the boiler. So you have to keep it in the middle. So we were good. We still was good. So we were on our way out, and after about 10 minutes, the lights came back on again. I understand at that point what happened there is while we're going out, 2 Japanese planes saw us coming out, decided it would be a good idea to sink us in the mouth of the harbor and plug it up so nobody could get out. So they came after it. But lucky, we had 2 near misses, one on each side of the bow. If there had been a direct hit, I wouldn't be here talking to you now.
My name is Alec Horanzy, Horanzy, T4, U.S. Army. All of a sudden, we heard these aircraft coming over, and they started machine gunning the area with machine gun fire. And to us, when they came over, we was able to see them. The Japanese planes were flying very low with the red insignia on the fuselage. We could see them very distinctly. Could see the pilots. They were just above the rooftops. This is what happened. So what happened then? We had our assignment. I wound up in an ammunition warehouse full with explosive devices and ammunition. This was the first wave. The first wave was about 183 aircraft. When they came over, shattering the barracks with machine gun fire, we did not have no equipment. Everything was locked up. We couldn't get our equipment because we were not in charge of the arms that was locked up. It was the upper echelon. They were responsible for all that. But it wasn't only the Army couldn't get their equipment. The Army, Navy, and Marines, they were in the same situation. But when we were assigned to an ammunition full of warehouse, we started to load our trucks with all kind of equipment, and we decided to take it up to the North Hills, northern part of the island. This is where they anticipated the Japanese were going to have a landing up in the northern part of the island. But we've been up here, made a few trips up here. Then we finally came back. Then about the first wave was over. Then the second wave came over. That consisted of about 153 planes. The same thing happened. They started shattering the barracks, and they headed for Wheeler Field. They're bombing Wheeler Field. They came down and cleaned up the airfields. They got every plane that was on the ground, been exposed to aircraft firing. So Japanese dive bombers came, wiped them all out. I was able to see all that, but when I was at the warehouse, the Japanese planes were coming overhead, and we thought that they were going to bomb the heck out of us. So it must have been about a dozen of us. We decided we better get the heck out of there before they were to bomb that warehouse that was full of explosive. So we decided, as soon as the airplane started coming over, again, they were flying very low, and we saw them run across the field because there was a ditch about 3 or 4 feet deep, and it was pretty far ahead of us. But before we got there, the planes already passed, and then he opened fire again. But this happened about 4 or 5 times. Every time the wave came over, they came in maybe 10, 15, 20 airplanes at a time. And every time we heard them coming, we left the warehouse, we ran for the open field for the ditch to get some protection. Then we came back in again. A few minutes later, we did the same thing. But well, we had our rifles and was able to shoot at some planes. So at the very end, the last wave, we did open fire on some of the planes. And then we did see a plane come down. It landed right outside of Schofield Barracks in the town of Waiawa. Okay, if they would have bombed that place, we would not be here talking to you right now.
My name is Albert Peter Marks. The branch was the U.S. Navy, and I was eventually ended up being a machinist mate first class. All of a sudden, the plane came shooting right across, and we're on the top deck, and it was coming right at us, low-flying plane. And it flew down and then made a left turn, went right in front of us on board our starboard side of the ship. And then it was headed towards Ford Island. So then we got our order for battle stations. All hands man your battle stations. And I went down below to my station where I was only an ammunition passer. I heard this boom, 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 and a series of explosions. So I happened to turn around looking back, and that's when the Arizona blew up. But the striking part of it was the fact that it blew up, and you know, it was a momentary shock. But then when you saw the forward mast heave over, just like the pictures depicted it later, you know, and it seemed like it was going, the whole thing, the ship was going down an escalator. You know, it was going real fast as if it was taking off somewhere, but it didn't. But it was going down into the hole of what was created by the explosion of on the forward part of the ship. So at that point I got out of there, and so I looked up at the sky there, and there's a squadron of Japanese planes. There was about 6 of them just flying majestically over, and you had to actually marvel at them, you know, because you know, you're looking up at them and they're flying over, and it was that, you know, I was a little unnerved at that point, but seeing them up and over there and seeing that they had passed, and then after that, you know, everything happened so fast that we got the guys on. Eventually, they got enough personnel on all the destroyers, and they were taken off. All the destroyers took off, but that was the end of my experience of the war right there. The second wave had gone through. We had 2 bombs dropped on the Dobbin, from what I understand. One of the shrapnel killed 3 guys on a fantail. There was manning the gun back there, and that was that particular end of that day.